Don't be nervous, kid. There are at least 4 NBA scouts sitting down there. Just play as you usually do. It's enough to perform as you normally would, Real Madrid's coach patiently advised Luka Dončić. He knew that this young man would one day become a superstar. But now what he needed to do was to play well in this game. Many are familiar with Dončić's story. Saying he's a once-in-a-century basketball prodigy is no exaggeration, because his talent is truly top-notch. In 1999, Luka Dončić was born into a basketball family in Slovenia. His father was a national player for Slovenia. So, Dončić spent his childhood following his father, seeing all kinds of players. His father's dedicated focus on his son's education was also evident, taking his son to the games, letting him learn from the experiences. At the age of 8, Dončić received his first formal basketball training. But just 1 hour into the training camp, the coach told Dončić's father, "Let him go to a bigger stage. This place doesn't belong to him." Out of options, his father decided to take the 8-year-old Dončić to the U11 training camp. But still the same, the 8-year-old Dončić still dominated the games. Later, his father applied for Dončić to participate in the U14 competition. And unsurprisingly, Dončić was still the brightest star on the court. After training for a few years, at the age of 13, Dončić went with his school to play in the European Cup. It was this match that made Real Madrid notice how good this player from Slovenia was. They went to great lengths to contact Dončić's father, promising they could make an exception and sign Dončić, making the 13-year-old a member of the Real Madrid club. But his father still hesitated for half a year. Finally, when he turned 14, Dončić became a full member of Real Madrid. At that time in Europe, the name of the genius teenager Dončić was already well known. Everyone wanted to see what this young man was capable of. Dončić didn't disappoint, leading his team to the champions of the European League at the ages of 14 and 16. 2 years later, at the age of 16, the top league of Real Madrid offered Dončić a contract. He was now allowed to play in the highest level of competition in the country. Dončić's debut was earth-shattering. Before the game, scouts and media filled the spectator stands, including many celebrities who also came to the scene. Finally, during a timeout, the coach called out to Dončić, "Don't be nervous at all. There are at least 4 NBA scouts down there. Just perform as usual." And so, not long after he went on court, Dončić nailed a three-pointer. His performance in this game was commendable. He ultimately helped the team win the game. It was in this same year that Dončić led Real Madrid to victory in the Eurocup. At this time, he realized himself that he might have to advance to a larger stage. This kid's performance on the court is nothing like I've seen in my first 20 years of my career. Dirk Nowitzki praised Dončić without hiding his admiration. The style of play of this young man is simply too steady. He doesn't seem like a rookie at all. Time takes us back to Dončić's days at Real Madrid. At the age of 16, he helped the team to win the Eurocup. And as an absolute core, he took the MVP trophy. At this point, he was in the spotlight. Who else but Dončić could boast of being unbeatable in Europe at the age of 16? At this time, Dončić was in the spotlight. But Dončić wasn't in a hurry. He played for 2 more years in Europe and won virtually every league championship with the team. Finally, at the age of 18, Europe's genius shook the NBA. All the scouts flocked to Real Madrid. The interested teams even left their phone numbers. But Dončić seemed rather indifferent. Any team that picked him would be fine. Worst case scenario, he could always return to Europe to play. And at this time, the Dallas Mavericks were brewing a huge deal. They were very interested in this European player. Given the team's track record with European players, they knew well how to cultivate European talent. So at the 2018 NBA draft, through a series of operations, they first let the Atlanta Hawks pick Dončić at the 3rd position, then used their 5th pick Trae Young plus some cash to successfully trade for their coveted Dončić. At this time, both Trae Young and Dončić didn't realize that both of them would at one point become the brightest new stars of this draft class. After joining the Mavericks owner Mark Cuban directly told Dončić, "We will do everything we can to help you become the next Dirk. If you need any help, I can immediately contact him to come to the stadium." Dončić thought the boss was joking. Who knew the next day he indeed had Dirk come to training camp, even one-on-one passing on his experience. This left him extremely stunned. This European predecessor, who single-handedly led a team to a championship, would willingly humble himself to instruct him. What reason does he have not to work hard? During the opening performance, Dirk sat on the sidelines watching Dončić. After the game was over, he gave Dončić very high praise. "This kid's performance on the court is unlike anything I've seen in the first 20 years of my career. He will be a superstar." Regarding the external praise, Dončić also learned to shut it out, because he knew that receiving too much of it would put him in a passive position. However, frequent 30-plus, 40-plus performances don't allow the young man to stay low-key. Along with him, entering the league was Trae Young. The media would frequently compare them both. But who would have thought in 2021, Trae Young would lead the team to the Eastern Conference Finals? Would Dončić be worse than him? A ball-dominant player like him, it's practically impossible to win a championship, even if his skills are very strong. Charles Barkley gave a piercing assessment of Dončić. Past indicators have all shown, for a ball-dominant player to lead a team to a championship is exceptionally difficult. And Dončić can't change his style of playing. So regarding whether he can achieve a championship, the general consensus is that he can't. In 2021, Trae Young led the Hawks against the Bucks in a ferocious battle for the Eastern Finals. Take another look at Dončić, who was compared to him at that time. He was holidaying in Europe. The media believed Dončić was not as good as Trae Young. Regarding this evaluation, Dončić didn't say much. He simply proved with his performance when the season began that he was definitely not much worse than Trae Young. Since the start of the season, Dončić's high-scoring performances have been ceaseless and led the Mavericks successfully into the playoffs. Positioned fourth in the Western Conference, they consecutively eliminated the Jazz and the Suns, among which the Suns series is deemed a classic, and the final Game 7 even birthed a classic meme. With their massive 33-point advantage, they entered the Western Finals. Facing the Warriors, Dončić was still able to perform highly efficiently. He was unable to support the team by himself. Eventually, they lost to the Golden State Warriors. After this round of series, the voices of doubt also dispersed, because everyone knew what it means to reach the Western Finals with just one star player. In the next season, they successfully recruited Kyrie Irving. Despite many external factors concerning Irving, the Mavericks still graciously accepted him. The only problem facing the Mavericks at the moment is one. That is, how to balance ball dominance. Irving also needs to handle the ball, but Dončić is a major ball handler. If they can balance the contradiction between the two, it is believed the Mavericks could potentially be a champion team in the new season. Let's wait and see.